I'm Charlie Saunier from the Renegades of Puck, and this is the 20th Century Hockey Chronicle. The NHL expands from 22 to 24 teams by adding the Tampa Bay Lightning and Ottawa Senators. Also, the season's expanded to 84 games. Helmet wearing is made optional in the NHL, but the league invokes stricter penalties for fighting and high sticking. Tampa Bay chooses first in the 1992 entry draft, taking Czechoslovakian star Roman Hamrlik, while Ottawa takes Russian ace Alexei Yashin. The Hall of Fame inducts 7 members, including players Marcel Dion, Woody Dumart, Bob Gainey, and Lanny McDonald. After a one-year holdout, Eric Lindros, property of Quebec, is traded to both Philadelphia and the Rangers in separate simultaneous deals, necessitating third-party arbitration. On June 30th, 1992, arbitrator Larry Bertuzzi rules Philadelphia and Quebec have a binding agreement. Eric Lindros goes to the Flyers for Ron Hextall, Mike Ricci, Steve Duchesne, 3 other players, 2 number 1 picks, and $15 million. On August 8, 1992, NHL brawler John Cordick dies of heart failure in police custody following a violent arrest in Quebec. A pathologist will claim that alcohol, cocaine, steroids caused his death. On September 22, 1992, the Kings announced Wayne Gretzky will miss at least half of the regular season with a herniated thoracic disc in his back. On September 30, 1992, the 15-year tenure of NHL President John Ziegler officially ends as the league's formal general counsel, Gil Stein, takes over in an interim basis. On October 5, 1992, Mario Lemieux signs a 7-year, $42 million contract with the Penguins. On December 4, 1992, Eric Lindros is charged with common assault after Mary Lynn Nunny alleges he elbowed her and spat beer on her in Whitby, Ontario. For the first time in 4 years since his 1989 drug bust, Detroit's Bob Probert is allowed to travel across the Canadian border without fear of deportation. The NHL announces that on February 1, 1993, former NBA Vice President Gary Bettman will take over as the NHL's new commissioner instead of president. On December 13, 1992, goalie Manon Rhéaume of the Atlanta Knights of the IHL becomes the first woman to play a professional regular season game. On January 8, 1993, while disabled by back pain, Mario Lemieux is diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. On January 21, 1993, after 9 shoulder operations, hernia surgery, a broken leg, 3 knee surgeries, and the tragic death of his wife, 4-time 50-goal scorer Tim Kerr retires. On February 22, 1993, Toronto's Glenn Anderson records his 1,000th point. On February 24, 1993, Detroit's Steve Yzerman nets his 1,000th point. On March 2, 1993, after missing nearly 2 months battling Hodgkin's disease, Mario Lemieux returns to action. On March 10, 1993, 2 years after promising not to move the team, North Stars owner Norman Green announces the team will move to Dallas for the 93-94 season. On March 19, 1993, 5 games after returning from a serious neck injury, Rangers defenseman Brian Leetch breaks his right ankle while stepping out of a New York taxi. On April 10, 1993, the Penguins beat the Rangers 4-2 and establish an NHL record with 17 straight wins. The Penguins go a league best 56-21-7 as Mario Lemieux notches 69 goals and 160 points in just 60 games. Washington finishes second in the Patrick division as Kevin Hatcher becomes the 7th defenseman in NHL history to score 30 goals with 34. The surprising Islanders take 3rd place in the Patrick. Pierre Turgeon 132 points, Derek King 38 goals, and Steve Thomas 37 goals lead the way. New Jersey finishes 4th in the Patrick as Claude Lemieux 81 points again leads the team in scoring, while Stéphane Richer 38 goals and Alexander Semak 37 contribute. A late season surge thrusts the Flyers into 5th place. Mark Recchi notches 53 goals, Eric Lindros scores 41 times in 61 games. The Rangers miss the playoffs despite 45 goals from veteran Mike Gartner. Boston, with a record of 51-26-7, takes 1st place in the Adams division as Adam Oates, 45 goals, 97 assists, 142 points, and rookie line mate Joe Juneau, 102 points, come up big. Quebec takes 2nd in the Adams division thanks to Matt Sundin, 114 points, and Joe Sakic's 105. Montreal gets newfound scoring from Brian Bellows, 40 goals, Vincent Damphousse, 39, and Kirk Muller, 37, finishes 3rd with 102 points. Buffalo's tandem of Pat LaFontaine, 148 points, and Alexander Mogilny, 127 points, guides the Sabres to 4th place in the Adams division. Hartford and first-year Ottawa fail to make the Adams division playoffs. The Senators finish 10-70-4. Chicago goes 47-25-12 to finish atop the Norris. Jeremy Roenick, 50 goals, and goalie Ed Belfour, 2nd in goals against, averaged with 2.59, are the keys. Detroit places second in the Norris thanks to the NHL's best offense. Steve Yzerman, 137 points. Dino Ciccarelli, 41 goals. Sergei Fedorov, 34. And Paul Eisbert, 34 All-Star. The Maple Leafs are third with 99 points, their most ever, as Doug Gilmour records 127 points and Dave Andreychuk leads in the NHL in power play goals, 32 out of his 54 total goals. Brett Hull, 54 goals, and Craig Janney, 106 points, helped St. Louis finish fourth in the Norris Division. The North Stars, amid well-founded rumors of their transfer to Dallas, collapse in the stretch and finish out of the playoffs. So does Tampa Bay, which wins just 23 games. Vancouver, with a record of 46-29-9, takes first place in the Smythe Division as sophomore Pavel Bure totals 60 goals and 110 points. The Flames rebound for second-place finish in the Smythe. Theo Fleury leads the way with 100 points. Wayne Gretzky notches 65 points in 45 games, while Luc Robitaille, 63 goals, 125 points, set NHL marks for goals and points by a left winger. LA finishes third in the Smythe. Teemu Selanne sets new NHL rookie records with 76 goals, 132 points, helping the young Jets finish fourth in the Smythe Division. Edmonton undergoes major personnel changes in a rebuilding season, while San Jose, 11 wins, plays poorly, accomplishes little. Leading NHL scorers include Mario Lemieux, 160 points, Pat LaFontaine, 148, Adam Oates, 142, Steve Yzerman, 137, Teemu Selanne, 132, and Pierre Turgeon, 132. Top goal scorers are Teemu Selanne with 76, Alexander Mogilny with 76, Mario Lemieux with 69. In the Adams Division semifinals, Buffalo shocks the Bruins 4-0, while Montreal skates past Quebec 4-2. Montreal then sweeps the Sabres, who are without the injured Pat LaFontaine and Alexander Mogilny. In the Patrick semifinals, the Isles shock Washington 4-2 in Game 6 of the series. Washington's Dale Hunter cheap shots Pierre Turgeon, knocking him out of the lineup and incurring a 21-game suspension in 1993-94. In the other Patrick semifinal series, Pittsburgh whips New Jersey 4-1. The Isles then stun the Penguins in the division finals, winning Game 7 in sudden death. In the Norris semis, the Blues sweep Chicago 4-0, while Toronto beats Detroit 4-3 with an OT win in Game 7. The Leafs then outlast the Blues 4-3 to win the Norris title. In the Smythe, Vancouver takes Winnipeg 4-2. LA surprises Calgary 4-2. The Kings then defeat Vancouver in 6 games in the division finals. The Islanders are no match for Montreal in the Wales Conference Finals, losing in 5 games. Los Angeles survives the Leafs 4-3 in the Campbell Conference Finals as LA's Wayne Gretzky and Jari Kurri each score their 100th career playoff goals. In Game 6, Gretzky tallies his record 8th playoff hat trick. The finals open in Montreal, but LA wins Game 1 4-1. Montreal takes Game 2 3-2 as Eric Desjardins scores all 3 goals, including one in overtime. Montreal wins the next 2 finals games in LA 4-3 and 3-2 as John LeClair wins both games with overtime goals. The Habs have now won 10 straight playoff overtime games. Back in Montreal for Game 5, the Canadiens dust off the Kings 4-1 to claim their 23rd Stanley Cup. Though Wayne Gretzky garners 40 playoff points, Patrick Waugh, 2.13 playoff goals against average, wins his second Conn Smythe Trophy. By a large voting margin, Mario Lemieux is awarded the Hart Trophy over Doug Gilmour. Lemieux also receives the Lester B. Pearson Award and the Masterton Trophy. Ed Belfour wins the Vezina Trophy, edging out Pittsburgh's Tom Barrasso. Chicago's Chris Chelios wins his second Norris Trophy, beating out runner-up Ray Bourque. The Calder Trophy goes to Teemu Selanne, who out-ballots Joey Junot. Pierre Turgeon is honored with the Lady Byng Trophy, while Boston's Dave Poulin earns the King Clancy Trophy. Doug Gilmour wins the Frank Selke Trophy, while Toronto coach Pat Burns cops the Jack Adams Award. Pat Peake of the Detroit Junior Red Wings is named Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year, while Sault Ste. Marie wins the Memorial Cup. The University of Maine wins the NCAA title with a 5-4 win over Lake Superior State in the finals. Maine's Jim Montgomery is named tournament MVP, while the school's Paul Correa wins the Hobie Baker Award. For decades, the Rangers proved that extravagant spending couldn't purchase the Stanley Cup, but finally, generations after the Blue Shirts annexed Lord Stanley's mug in 1940, the best team money could buy ended the championship drought. To do so, Paramount Communications, which owned the team and Madison Square Garden, pumped an inordinate amount of cash into the purchase of players such as forward Steve Larmer and goalie Glenn Healy. They also hired coach Mike Keenan, paying him almost $1 million a year. These players were added to a nucleus that included Philadelphian Mike Richter in goal and Connecticut-reared Brian Leach on defense. They melded neatly with 3 gifted Russians, Alexei Kovalev, Sergei Zubov, and Sergei Nemchinov. Keenan adhered to his previous coaching trends by selecting one goalie as his top banana and sticking with him. I decided in training camp that Mike Richter would be my primary goaltender, added Keenan, and then Glenn Healy would be there for motivation and to fill in from time to time. Obviously, it worked out for the best. By midseason, the Rangers had taken a firm hold of first place overall. Captain Mark Messier was in mint condition, and Adam Graves, one of many ex-Oilers on the team, was on his way to a 52-goal season. To the league's surprise, Zubov developed into the club's highest-scoring defenseman, even better than the gifted Brian Leetch. "We had the best power play and the best penalty killing," said Richter, which is a pretty good parlay. When the Rangers slipped in late winter, management gambled at the trade deadline, unloading popular Mike Gartner to Toronto for Glenn Anderson, obtaining checking forwards Stefan Matteau and Brian Noonan from Chicago, and nabbing yet another Oiler veteran, Craig McTavish. The Rangers finished the league best 52-24-8, then opened the playoffs with an easy sweep of the Islanders. They followed that by eliminating Washington in 5 games, whereupon they met the Devils in one of the best playoff series of all time. Trailing 3 games to 2 and 2-0 in Game 6, the Rangers rallied behind Messier to tie the series. Game 7 played at Madison Square Garden went in a double overtime after the Devils tied the score with 7.7 seconds remaining in regulation. Finally, a fluke shot by Matteau from behind the net somehow bounced off New Jersey goalie Martin Brodeur and into the cage. That sent the Rangers into the finals against Vancouver. After losing the opener at home, the Blue Shirts reeled off 3 straight wins. Delirious New Yorkers, some of who paid $1,500 or more for a ticket, packed the Garden for Game 5, but the Canucks won that game 6-3 and the next 4-1. More nervous than optimistic, the Garden faithful sweated through a nip-and-tuck Game 7. The Rangers took a 3-1 lead, yielded a goal in the third period, and hung on for a 3-2 triumph. The Blue Shirts hoisted the Stanley Cup and paraded it around the ice, showing their fans a trophy they hadn't seen in 54 years. The NHL opens the season with 2 new teams, the Florida Panthers and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. The Minnesota North Stars move to Texas and become the Dallas Stars. The NHL's conferences are renamed the Eastern and Western. The Atlantic and Northeast divisions make up the Eastern Conference, and the Central and Pacific make up the West. The Hall of Fame inducts 8 men, including players Steve Shutt, Guy Lapointe, Billy Smith, and Edgar Laprade. The Ottawa Senators, who reportedly threw their final game of the 92-93 season to guarantee the first pick in the 93 draft, Alexander Daig, are fined $100,000 by NHL boss Gary Bettman. On October the 9th, 1993, the Tampa Bay Lightning set an NHL attendance record when 27,227 fans filled the Thunderdome for a match with the Florida Panthers. The NHL's on-ice officials strike on November 14th, 1993, and are indefinitely replaced by referees and linesmen from other leagues. The strike ends on November 30th. On December 5th, 1993, Mike Gartner, playing for the Rangers, becomes the 6th player in NHL history to reach the 600-goal plateau. On February 2nd, 1994, the Red Wings beat Tampa Bay 3-1, giving coach Scotty Bowman his 1,000th NHL win. On February the 5th, 1994, Washington's Peter Bondra scores 5 goals in a 6-3 win over Tampa Bay. In the same February the 5th game, Peter Bondra scores 4 goals in 4-12 against goalie Darren Pupa, setting a record for the fastest 4 goals ever scored. On February 13th, Pittsburgh's Tom Barrasso ties Frank Brimsek as the winningest American-born goalie in NHL history when he records his 252nd NHL win. On February 17th, 1994, Quebec's Mike Ricci scores 5 goals against San Jose Sharks in an 8-2 win. On March 3rd, 1994, Alan Eagleson, former director of the NHL Players Association, is indicted by a U.S. federal grand jury on 32 criminal counts, including fraud, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. Kings center Wayne Gretzky ties the NHL record for career goals held by Gordie Howe, 801, with a March 20th goal against San Jose. On March 23, 1994, Wayne Gretzky beats Vancouver's Kirk McLean for career goal number 802, with assists from Marty McSorley, and Luc Robitaille becomes the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer. 6 members of the Hartford Whalers, Pat Verbeek, Jeff Sanderson, Chris Pronger, Mark Potvin, Todd Harkins, Mark Janssens, are arrested March 24th in Buffalo following a barroom brawl. Pittsburgh's Ron Francis, New Jersey's Bernie Nichols, Hartford's Brian Propp, and Detroit's Dino Ciccarelli all notched their 1,000th NHL point. Ciccarelli also scores his 500th goal. The Rangers win the Atlantic Division, have the best record in hockey, 52-24-8. Adam Graves leads the team in goals with 52. Goalie Martin Brodeur, 2.40 goals against average, helps New Jersey compile 106 points and finish second to the Rangers in the Atlantic. Led by playmaker Joey Juneau, 19 goals, 66 assists for 85 points, the Capitals finish third in the Atlantic Division. Center Pierre Turgeon scores 94 points, but the Islanders finish at 500, fourth in the Atlantic. The Florida Panthers set an NHL expansion record with 33 wins in their inaugural campaign, thanks largely to goalie John Van Beesbroek, 2.53 goals against average, a .924 save percentage. Despite the outstanding play of Eric Lindros, Mark Recchi, and rookie sensation Mikhail Renberg, the Flyers fail to make the playoffs for the 5th straight year. Tampa Bay cannot muster any offense, finishes last in the Atlantic. Pittsburgh wins the Northeast Division, going 44-27-13 as Jaromir Jagr emerges as the team's new scoring leader with 99 points. Mario Lemieux finishes with 37 points in just 22 games. Boston finishes second to the Penguins as injury-plagued sniper Cam Neely scores 50 goals while playing a total of just 49 games. Montreal is just a point behind Boston as goalie Patrick Waugh and Vincent Damphou's 91 points star. Buffalo's 95 points are one fewer than the Canadiens in the Northeast Division. Goalie Dominik Hasek leads the league in goals against average, 1.95. Joe Sakic's 92 points can't help Quebec from finishing a distant 5th in the Northeast. Hartford wins just 27 games and finishes 6th in the Northeast Division despite Jeff Sanderson's 41 goals. Rookie center Alexei Yashin, 79 points, is the only saving grace for Ottawa, which wins just 14 games. Detroit, with a record of 46-30-8, wins the Central thanks to the league's best offense. Sergei Fedorov, 56 goals, 64 assists, 120 points, stars for the Detroit Red Wings. The Maple Leafs set an NHL record by starting off the season with 10 consecutive victories. They finished second in the Central thanks to Doug Gilmour's 111 points and Dave Andreychuk's 53 goals. The Stars shine bright in Dallas as Mike Modano scores 50 goals and the club finishes with 97 points. Brett Hull, 57 goals, and Brendan Shanahan, 52 goals, lead St. Louis to a 4th-place finish in the Central Division. Jeremy Roenick, 107 points, and goalie Eddie Belfour helped Chicago finish 3 games over 500. Ty Domi, league-high 347 penalty minutes, and a fleet of tough guys can't help Winnipeg escape the Central cellar. Defenseman Al MacInnis, 82 points, and 3 40-goal scorers helped Calgary go 42-29-13 and win the Pacific Division. Led by goal-scoring champ Pavel Bure, 60 goals, 47 assists, 107 points, Vancouver finishes second in the Pacific Division, a game over 500. San Jose winds up 3 points behind Vancouver as 5'7" Arturs Urbe sparkles in net. Terry Yake leads Anaheim in scoring with just 52 points, yet the Expansion Ducks win 33 games and place 4th in the Pacific Division. Despite the heroics of Wayne Gretzky, 38 goals, 92 assists, 130 points, the Kings failed to qualify for the playoffs 1 year after making it to the finals. It is Gretzky's first ever playoff shutout. The Oilers sink into the Pacific floor as rookie Jason Arnott, 33 goals, is one of the few bright spots. Leading scorers include Wayne Gretzky, 130 points, Sergei Fedorov, 120, Adam Oates, 112, and Doug Gilmour, 111. Top goal scorers are Pavel Bure with 60, Brett Hull with 57, Sergei Fedorov with 56, and Dave Andreychuk with 53. Divisional playoffs are abandoned. The top 8 teams from each conference make the playoffs, with the number 1 team facing number 8, number 2 meeting number 7, etc. In the Eastern Conference quarterfinals, the Rangers embarrass the Isles 4-0. The Washington survives Pittsburgh 4-2, New Jersey squeaks by Buffalo 4-3, and Boston outlasts the Canadiens 4-3. In the Western Conference quarterfinals, San Jose shocks top-seeded Detroit 4-3, Toronto beats Chicago 4-2, Dallas sweeps St. Louis 4-0, Vancouver wins its last 3 games in overtime to upset Calgary 4-3. In the Eastern semis, the Rangers beat Washington in 5, while New Jersey, after dropping games 1 and 2, roars back to beat the Bruins in 6. In the Western semis, Toronto beats San Jose in Game 7, while the surprising Canucks roar past Dallas in 5. New York defeats New Jersey in a 7-game Eastern Conference final. Stephane Matteau scores the clincher in double overtime. In the Western Finals, the favored Maple Leafs are stymied by the bigger, faster, more aggressive Canucks, who prevail in 5 games. Vancouver steals a win in New York in Game 1 of the Cup Finals as Greg Adams scores in overtime. New York wins Games 2 and 3 of the Finals 3-1 and 5-1 as Glenn Anderson scores both game winners, down 2-0 in Game 4. The Rangers rally to win 4-2. With the Cup in sight, the Rangers lose Game 5 at home 6-3 as 8 goals are scored in the third period. Vancouver wins Game 6 at home 4-1 as Jeff Courtnall and Jeff Brown each score twice. Back in New York, the Rangers take a 3-1 lead in Game 7 and hang on to win 3-2. They hoist the Stanley Cup for the first time in 54 years. Rangers defenseman Brian Leetch, 34 playoff points, becomes the first American-born player to earn the Conn Smythe Trophy. Sergei Fedorov becomes the first Red Wing since Gordie Howe to win the Hart Trophy. He also wins the Frank Selke. Boston's Ray Bourque wins his 5th Norris Trophy, while Dominik Hasek takes the Vezina. Other trophy winners include Wayne Gretzky, the Lady Byng, Cam Neely, the Masterton, and New Jersey coach Jacques Lemaire, the Jack Adams. During the gold medal hockey match between Canada and Sweden in the 1994 Winter Games, a 2-2 deadlock ends in a shootout. Sweden's Peter Forsberg nets the winning goal. The Kamloops Blazers win the Memorial Cup, while London's Jamie Allison captures the Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year award. Lake Superior State wins the NCAA title with a 9-1 win over Boston University in the finals as Laker Sean Tulare is tournament MVP. Minnesota Duluth's Chris Marinucci wins the Hobie Baker Award. In 1994-95, the NHL faced the real possibility that labor unrest could force the cancellation of the season. Despite weeks of negotiation, representatives of the NHL Players Association and League were unable to reach a settlement on a new collective bargaining agreement. Consequently, after the completion of the exhibition schedule on October 1st, NHL owners locked out the players and waited for an agreement. Both sides remained at a standstill despite numerous threats of final offer and final offer. The most pressing issues separating the two sides were free agency, salary arbitration, entry-level salaries, the entry draft, and revenue sharing. With no real end in sight, players began to go back to juniors or flee to Europe to stay sharp during this interim, causing some bitterness among those not invited to Europe. I don't think it's right, Edmonton's Jason Arnott, who had narrowly missed winning the 1994 Calder Trophy, outspokenly said. We're getting locked out. We're part of a union. We should get locked out together. Finally, on January 11th, after 3 months and 468 missed games, both sides hammered out a new deal allowing the players to return to the ice. Since half of the season had been wasted, the 95 schedule consisted of just 48 games. Perhaps Calgary captain Joe Nieuwendyk summed up the abridged schedule best. Nobody wins in this situation. We lost. They lost. The fans lost. While much of the attention on the ice during the shortened season focused on the triumphs in Detroit and the troubles with the New York Rangers, a quiet revolution was taking place in New Jersey under the direction of defensive genius Jacques Lemaire. The Devils had come within a double overtime goal of reaching the finals in 1994. Lemaire had a surprise in store for his opponents in 1995. Lemaire employed a neutral zone trap, which proved to be the most debated defensive maneuver in decades. Instead of focusing on his lack of offense, Lemaire concentrated his hard-working forwards, veteran mobile defenseman, and one of the top young goalies in the league, Martin Brodeur. During the regular season, the Devils had only moderate success with the trap. New Jersey finished only 4 games over 500 and captured the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Lemaire remained confident that the tables would turn in the playoffs when defensive hockey is the norms, not the exception. He was right. Conn Smythe winner Claude Lemieux had the task of shadowing the NHL's top power forwards throughout the playoffs. Cam Neely, Jaromir Jagr, Eric Lindros, and Keith Primo. Lemieux did more than just shut them all down. He outscored them 13-7 in 20 games. The Devils smothered their opponents in the playoffs. Even Scotty Bowman, whose Detroit Red Wings finally made it to the championship round, couldn't find a way to beat the heat of the New Jersey Express. Lemaire's Devils, using purposeful forechecking, opportunistic scoring, and bone-rattling body checking, buried the Motanners in 4 straight contests, outscoring the Wings 16-7. The Devils thus won the first cup in the 21-year history of the franchise. Citing fatigue and the inability to play up to his usual level, Mario Lemieux, 28, announces he will sit out the 1994-95 season. The NHL Hall of Fame inducts 3 men: Lionel Big Train Conacher, Henry Watson, and executive Brian O'Neill. Already a staple of 2 cable TV networks, ESPN and ESPN2, the NHL signs an exclusive over-the-air TV deal with Fox Sports. After a dozen years in Calgary, all-star defenseman Al MacInnis is traded to St. Louis for Phil Housley. Barely a month after coaching the Rangers to a Stanley Cup, Mike Keenan leaves for St. Louis. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman suspends Keenan for 60 days and fines him $100,000 for jumping to the Blues. Without a collective bargaining agreement in place between themselves and the Players Association, NHL owners vote to lock the players out of camp, delaying the start of the season. Negotiations between the owners and the NHLPA last until late January 1995, when a new collective bargaining agreement is finally hammered out. On February 7, 1995, Pittsburgh's Joe Mullen becomes the first U.S.-born player to reach 1,000 points. On February 9, 1995, Philadelphia trades Mark Recchi to Montreal and acquires Jean Leclerc, who joins Eric Lindros and Michael Renberg to form the Legion of Doom line. On March 8, 1995, Rangers winger Steve Larmer notches an assist in a 6-4 win over New Jersey for his 1,000th career point. In Minnesota, former North Star scoring star Bill Goldsworthy announces he is suffering from AIDS. On March 25, 1995, Red Wings coach Scotty Bowman records his 900th regular season win as Detroit beats Vancouver 2-1. On April 17, 1995, LA's Wayne Gretzky notches the 2,500th point of his career with an assist and a 5-2 loss to Calgary. Led by Paul Coffey's 58 points and Ray Shepherd's 30 goals, the Red Wings finished first overall in the NHL for the first time since 1964-65. Brett Hull notches 29 goals and 50 points in 48 games as St. Louis posts a 28-15-5 record, good for second place in the Central Division. Bernie Nichols, 23 goals, Joe Murphy, 22, paced the Blackhawks to a third-place finish in the Central. In his first year as a Maple Leaf, center Matt Sundin leads the fourth-place team in goals with 23 and points with 47. Dave Gagne leads Dallas in scoring with 42 points. Despite just 17 wins, the club makes the playoffs. Winnipeg wastes a brilliant performance by their Olympic line of Alexei Zhamnov, 65 points, Keith Tkachuk, 51, and Teemu Selanne, 48, to finish out of the playoffs. Theo Fleury is the league's 7th leading goal-getter with 29 and 6th overall score with 58 points. His Flames win the Pacific Division 24-17-7. Vancouver, led by Pavel Bury's 20 goals and 43 points, finishes second in the Pacific Division 18-18-12. The Sharks finish third in the Pacific Division thanks to veterans Ulf Dahlen and Craig Janney. The Nordiques are the Eastern Conference's top team thanks to Joe Sakic, 62 points, rookie Peter Forsberg, 50 points, and Owen Nolan, 30 goals. The Penguins take second in the Northeast Division as Jaromir Jagr wins the scoring title with 70 points, 32 of those are goals. Boston rides the playmaking of Adam Oates, 53 points, and goaltending of rookie Blaine Lacker to secure third place in the Northeast Division. Buffalo goalie Dominik Hasek dominates again, while snipers Alexander Mogilny, 47 points, and Donald Audette, 24 goals, lead the attack for the fourth-place Sabres. Eric Lindros powers the Flyers to first place in the Atlantic Division with 70 points, but he loses the scoring title to Jaromir Jagr on a goal-scored tiebreaker. The Devils get 23 goals from Stéphane Richer and brilliant goaltending from Martin Brodeur to finish second in the Atlantic Division, 22-18-8. Rookie goalie Jim Carey has the NHL's third-best goals against average, 2.13, and Peter Bondra leads the league in goals with 34 as Washington takes third in the Atlantic Division. A year after winning the Stanley Cup, the Rangers finish one game under 500, 22-23-3, and narrowly gain the final playoff berth in the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference quarterfinals, the Rangers upset Quebec 4-2, Philadelphia beats Buffalo 4-1, Pittsburgh outs Washington 4-3, New Jersey shells Boston 4-1. In the Western Conference quarterfinals, Detroit beats Dallas 4-1, San Jose upsets Calgary 4-3, Vancouver shocks St. Louis 4-3, Chicago tips Toronto 4-3. In the Eastern semifinals, the Flyers sweep the Rangers in 4, while New Jersey plucks the Penguins in 5. In the Western semifinals, the Red Wings hook the Sharks in 4 straight, while Chicago sweeps Vancouver. The Eastern Conference Finals see the Devils and the Flyers take turns winning on the road before New Jersey finally reverses the trend, winning Game 6 and the series 4-2. The Red Wings need 5 games to dispatch the surprising Blackhawks in the Western Conference Finals that features 3 overtime finishes. In the finals, the Devils employ their defensive trap style of defense to neutralize Detroit's powerful attack, winning in Motown 2-1 and 4-2. The Devils return to New Jersey with a 2-game series lead, then put the final touches on the Red Wings with a pair of 5-2 victories. For the first time in their 21-year existence, dating back to their origins as the Kansas City Scouts and Colorado Rockies, the Devils win the Stanley Cup. Devils winner Claude Lemieux wins the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP with 13 goals and 3 of them being game winners. Dominik Hasek wins the Vezina Trophy for the second consecutive season. Classy Pittsburgh center Ron Francis earns the Frank Selke Trophy for his outstanding defensive play, as well as the Lady Byng Trophy for his sportsmanship. Detroit's Paul Coffey takes his third Norris Trophy as the league's top defenseman. Quebec center Peter Forsberg wins the Calder Trophy, narrowly edging Washington goalie Jim Carey. Eric Lindros grabs the Hart Trophy and the Lester B. Pearson Award. Boston University wins the NCAA title with a 6-2 win over Maine. Changes abounded for the 1995-1996 season as more than 150 NHL players changed sweaters. The most noteworthy trade occurred when the LA Kings traded Wayne Gretzky in February to St. Louis, where he joined Brett Hull. Gretzky, discouraged by the Kings' poor play, had demanded to be traded, and after much speculation, Gretzky was dealt to Mike Keenan's Blues for a handful of prospects. Midway through the year, the Jets flew Teemu Selanne, the NHL's top rookie in 1993, to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. The Finnish Flash teamed with Paul Kariya, a player with Hart Trophy potential. Back in Canada, the Canadiens had been facing internal turmoil since missing the playoffs in 1994-95. In Montreal, losing is simply unacceptable. After starting the 1995-96 season with 5 straight losses, the Habs fired GM Serge Savard and coach Jacques Demers, replacing them with Rajan Houle and Mario Tremblay. Both were former players, but neither had front office experience. The most vocal opponent of the changes was Patrick Roy, the league's top goalie and an idol among fans in Montreal. Finally, on December 2nd, the ill feelings and bitter sentiments came to a head. In a game against Detroit, Tremblay kept Roy in net despite the Red Wings slamming 9 goals behind him. When Roy did get yanked, he marched to the bench, turned to the Canadiens' president Ron Corey, and told him he was quitting the team, claiming Tremblay had humiliated him. 2 days later, Roy and team captain Mike Keane were dispatched to Colorado. while the Avalanche surprised hockey purists who thought the Red Wings, who set an NHL record with 62 victories during the regular season, would find their way back to the Stanley Cup Finals. But the Motowners collided with the avalanche of talent from Colorado in the Western Conference Finals and limped back to Detroit after learning a 6-game lesson. There was, however, more to the Avalanche than Joe Sakic was the team's offensive spark plug, while Peter Forsberg was a stylish playmaker with speed, tenacity, and a killer instinct. And the Avalanche had also acquired feisty Claude Lemieux, the playoff MVP in 1995. The Avalanche's road to the finals was rocky, with each series lasting 6 games, including 4 sudden death affairs against Chicago. But once they reached the finals, Colorado dispatched the Florida Panthers in 4 straight games, including an 8-1 thrashing in Game 2, in which Forsberg recorded a hat-trick in the first period. In Game 4, it was goalies Waugh and John Van Beesbrook who emerged as the stars in a 104-minute scoreless marathon, the longest scoreless game in Stanley Cup Finals history. It took a blast from the blue line by rearguard Uwe Krupp to give Colorado a 1-0 victory and the cup. Sakic, the heart and soul of the Avalanche, led all playoff scorers with 18 goals and set a new playoff record with 6 game winners. Colorado became the 5th team in the last 5 years to hoist the cup, which gave the fans in Denver a whole new Rocky Mountain high. I'm Charlie Saunier from the Renegades of Puck, and this has been the 20th Century Hockey Chronicle. If you'd like to support more projects like this, please follow the Renegades of Puck on all social media platforms and also visit renegadesofpuck.com.